This conference will now be recorded.
Being 6 p.m. on December 3rd, 2025, we'll bring the Tilton Budget Committee to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So tonight we have the big budget review, and we will entertain Tim Pearson.
Or he'll entertain us. Right?
What's that?
Or you'll entertain us.
I guess, yes, believe me, I would love for you guys to entertain me. So you should have received a week ago the budget and narrative for 2026. I sent it out last Wednesday before Thanksgiving so that you'd have an advanced look and could go through it. And I'm just going to go through some of the big highlights and some of the dynamics that took place in the building of this budget.
Can we interrupt you at those points if we have
Sure.
questions? Okay.
At any point.
Okay, great.
And also, Pat Constantino, the land use coordinator, is online. The chief of police is here. If there are any questions I can't answer, we'll get the answers for you, but those department heads could certainly answer for themselves. And the DPW director, they're doing a cleanup tonight, and they had an equipment issue. Otherwise, he would have been here as well.
Oh.
So he's having to repair the equipment before they go out and do the cleanup at 9 tonight.
And Scott Hilliard is here, I think.
And Scott
Did you mention
Hilliard, our
that? Yeah,
town
the administrator.
Yep. Last
Right.
but not least, he can entertain us. So in any event, the biggest issue going into 26 is that we are now at full employment. So all full-time positions are filled, and for the first time in a long time. And this is also the dynamic also as you go through the budget. You'll see there are a lot of changes in certain departments. Public Works, for one, there was a change of the director, and then the majority of the department had turned over during the year, which has happened from time to time in the past. But because it's a small department, it's a little more noticeable. In addition to the full employment, we had to renegotiate utility rates. These had some effect on us, and then also salary adjustments. So a number of positions in town, partly because of the progression of the last 2 years and who was in those positions, they weren't at market rates. So they were below market. And
Do you have the backup to show what the market rates are?
I do for the, I can get that for those other positions.
That'd be great.
I do have it for the position that is listed in the budget tonight. That's
Tilton
not
do a-
already,
Did Tilton do one of those studies?
I'm sorry?
Tilton did it for townwide, all the positions? Study?
Not all the positions, but the positions that, that were either being hired into and, needing to hire for those positions, or the ones that we were trying to bring up to market rate. And I'll go through those.
Well, I was just, looking online at some of the wage increases for Belknap County, and actually the bigger, larger counties, some were only 3% wage percentage, and we're one of the smaller counties, so I wouldn't expect that we would even have. I think New Hampshire as a whole was like 4.8% wage increase. This is for everybody, so I'm just trying to, and it seems like some of our increases are a little more than they should be.
Well, so
That's why we would want to see that
Sure.
documentation, how you arrived at that point.
So
Yeah.
the challenge becomes if something is budgeted one way one year because of either experience or change of position for that. So give you an example, the prior Public Works Director's position did not include the mechanic portion. And it was budgeted at $77,000. Also, that position, there was no experience for the person coming into that position.
Well,
So,
when he was here earlier, he did the same thing and he was paid very similarly.
so
When the director was here,
when
before he left, he also was a technician
right.
and
And
so he had and we said, yes, we understand why he's getting that kind of wage.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm just trying to give an example of
Sure.
why you would see a big change in within the budget, percentage change. For the town administrator, similar thing. So he was hired in at one particular wage, and there were some budget constraints at the time, and it was new for the board, new for new for the town, and he had proven himself, and this is the wage that town administrators earn. In fact, you'll see that many of the town administrators earn significantly more than what he's making currently. Same thing goes for the chief of police. The chief of police had been on a contract, but at the time that he was originally put on the contract, he was a new chief and had been recently elevated into that position. And then during that period of time, not only was he doing an exemplary job, but also other communities around, the positions for that kind of experience with that size department were earning significantly more than what our chief of police was. So the board was in general trying to make sure that for succession planning, if we lose a position somewhere, someone moves on to somewhere else, or they move, they retire, or what have you, that we have the ability to, and the budget to be able to hire somebody qualified into that position. So that was, pretty much in a nutshell how these positions were redone.
Isn't that how the positions were filled in the first place?
Well,
Because we're talking about an 18.6% increase for one of the two positions you're talking about.
right. So in hiring at the time, it was a mid-year hire, and it was pertaining to, if you're talking about the town administrator
Correct.
position, there was some, at the time the hire was made, it was made at a lower rate to be able to accomplish the budget needs at the time. And with the understanding that it was at a below market rate, and that, if someone does a good job, they're going to be brought up, to a higher point. And the work was done to show what the other town administrators were earning. And so that's how that one was increased.
So can I say something? So I'm just kind of flabbergasted at the salary increases in the budget, in the economy that we're in right now. But I have to say, when a person is hired, they're hired based on their experience, their education, all of that goes into how you bring them in. It's not what the guy in the next town is making. It's based on
That's right.
that individual person and what they have. Now, when Scott was hired, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott came in with a few years of town administrator experience. And that also went into why he was hired at a certain amount that was not what the previous one was making. That was part of the formula, I believe.
Well, so experience is always taken
Right.
into account. All those
Right.
those components that you mentioned are always taken into account.
Right. But I don't understand you saying it's succession planning. There's always money in the budget. There's always money that's not spent. So if you have to replace somebody mid-year or like 6 months in, you're going to find the money if you find the right candidate. So I'm not buying this argument. Sorry.
That was my point. These were all factored in. Market rates were factored in when the position, and no matter who it is, it's a market rate for a small town administrator should be X. You like them, great. You did an exemplary job, great. Congratulations, thank you. That's what we expect.
So two of the positions.
18%, Tim.
No, I completely
18%.
understand. Yeah.
Well, the concern,
they-
of course, is that the economy isn't the greatest. And
Right.
like I was looking at the wage, normal, everybody else is getting, if you're lucky, you're getting a 3% increase.
Right.
And then So, but everybody else here is getting much more. So the taxpayers have to shell out more money from what they're making less.
Sure. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is that there are two components to this. One is, and you're right, Deb, in the past, we've always had money available, but we are very tight right now. This budget is very tight. There isn't a lot of wiggle room in it. As you go through it, you'll see that there's not a lot of, well, gee, let's just not do this or do that. I mean, I'm sure there's some things that can, the guns and butter argument, where we're going to spend the money. But in large part, there isn't a lot of leeway. So as it relates to two of the positions, and without going into the personal backgrounds or experience, it was understood when one of the positions was hired that it was at a below market rate. That was understood by everybody. It was understood by the board. It was understood by the candidate coming in, and with the expectation that at some point they'd be brought up to a higher rate. So that's, unfortunately, it does, stick out. There's no question. But with another one, it was returning to kind of where the budget was prior to that, which reflected the market rate for that position. And but it had been artificially low for a year, again, because of experience and the components of the position. So it's really, we try, whenever possible, we try to talk about the position and not the person. But when you're hiring, you're clearly taking into account elements of that person's background, their experience, their education, as Deb said. So it's a combination of things. But this budget reflects these are the current wages that are in the budget. So when you look at, say, on the first page of the budget, and not to use the town administrator as a continual example, but the budget that's listed there, that is the current wage for that position. So that's currently being paid. So, and the same thing goes for any of those that are that are shaded. Those are existing wages. There is one exception to that, and that's in the land use department. And there is one that the board had not taken into account yet, and that's for the land use coordinator. And I can talk to you about that in a minute too.
When you say what they're currently getting paid,
Yeah. It reflects
that
the
might
current
not be
pay.
reflective of what the budget had when we approved it last year.
That's correct. In other words,
Okay,
the
so-
selectmen had made the increases mid-year,
And they pulled the
And-
money from somewhere else and moved it around or whatnot. Okay.
essentially.
I will say that having been on a lot of different trying to hire department heads, the chief of police, the town, all of them, kind of, except for Tim. There's not a lot of people applying that have the appropriate kind of, as a selectman and the hiring authority, you have to take into account that we want these people for years, because it costs money to lose them. Searches and training and the experience, tricks of the trade and what have you that these people have picked up along the way. As a chef, the amounts of money they get paid are obscene in my world. But in their world, that's what they get paid. You know what I mean? And if you want the best talent, you have to pay for it. We went through several years of police turmoil. We went through a lot of turmoil in public works. We have had significant turmoil in town hall, losing people because they're unhappy with their pay. If I know I can make another 10 grand across the river.
Well, that becomes the small town versus small city versus big city. If you start looking at we're a small town, there's going to be turnover. If these people are going to gain experience, if they're going to do exemplary work and they go and move into Concord or Manchester or somewhere like that, we're going to lose them. We're a
And
small
the-
town and we have to
certainly.
look like a small town. This budget does not look like a small
Struggling in the
town.
departments is not indicative of just being a small town. The
But-
problems that creates on every different kind of level is just insane.
I'm just saying that your point that you were making is we have a possibility of losing people. Yes,
We
we
have
do.
in the
People that get
past.
more experience might move on to a long time ago when I was first on a budget committee, there's $100,000 person here, there's $100,000 person here, there's $100,000 person here. How do we justify those? Well, they've been around for 30 years and then the next person comes in and bam, that person a couple years later is right up there again. And just the 18, 17%, the officers only got a 4.4%.
They have a contract that they
Are we gonna-
negotiated.
I know.
Contracts coming up again. I suspect that number will go up.
Yes.
So,
Because that's
Most
you
likely.
just lose people to places where they can make more money. And we talk about the economy. The government economy is pretty much the same. You need a certain amount of police officers, maybe more than you would in a better economy. And being short puts extra stress on a guy that we slap a Tilton thing on his arm and a gun on his hip and say, go out there and work 75 hours a week. It's just not right. You got to have extra people. Snow plowing. How's your road, Stan?
Excellent.
There you go.
And if you look
they're
at the
out there
highway-
at 3 a.m. doing this.
Excellent.
They get
c-
paid.
Can I say
Yeah.
something?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've been in municipal, I was a town administrator, okay? I understand when you work for a town, you're at the mercy of being a municipal employee and the people in your town have a right to weigh in on what you get paid. Now, I'm not saying that anyone that works for the town of Tilton doesn't deserve a raise. I have a concern with the amounts of these raises, okay? People are struggling to keep their houses, they're struggling to keep their jobs, and I have a hard time approving a 18% increase, a 9% increase. There should be a cap, 3, 4%, that's it. I work for the state. They're laying off people at the state. They're not filling positions. People leave and the position stays open for 6 months. So somebody else is doing their job, right? Because they have a budget crunch. They have a budget crisis. And I'm sorry, but this is too much money.
And
This is huge raises. Not that nobody is entitled or should have more money. I'm not criticizing anybody's performance, but in this world right now, we talk about people go on and on about seniors and how they need to stay in their houses. This is a lot of money. This is the salary increase is huge. I mean,
And-
we need to think about this.
And part of the argument, part of the explanation is this was a known balloon payment that we were agreed to do once they've been in the job a little while.
No, it wasn't.
Was that part of the meeting? Was that part of the hiring
I think
process?
Scott wants to address
I
that.
I can answer Stan's question. When the Board of Selectmen hired me, I got a $4,000 pay increase. I worked in a little town that paid me $83,000 or $84,000 with the understanding that I would have a 90-day review. We would discuss it. We had a discussion, and Joe Jessamine will remember this, at that table. One of their concerns for offering me a salary that was lower than they were paying their current town administrator, $115,000, with minimal town administrative experience. Jumped around a lot, but minimal experience. One of my points was that the town would be saving somewhere in the range of $15,000 because they will not be paying into the retirement system for me. That is a saving of $15,000 right there. The second portion of my argument with the selectmen, or my discussion with the selectmen about a potential raise in the future, was I have 30 years of management experience, which is very consistent with managing a town. In fact, my sheriff's office budget, when I was sheriff for 15 years, was larger than the town of Tilton's budget the first year I came here. So the experience factor was only in the town administrator role. I respect and understand your understanding of this, but I just think that in defense of the Board of Selectmen who made, not only in my case, in the police chief's case, I advocated for this as well. The man behind me, Tim Pearson, and I were instrumental in bringing back our Kevin Duvall, our DPW director. Because at the time, our current director wished to step down. He explained to me how unhappy he was. He didn't like the job. He didn't want it. So we had to go out searching. I can tell you what we had for potential candidates, very minimal. But we reached out to Kevin Duvall, and Kevin Duvall came with the understanding that he was also going to be the technician. Now, overseeing the budget along with Tim, when Kevin was not the technician fixing the police cars and the highway trucks, we were paying some substantial sums of money for mechanics. We had a contract with a mechanic from Northfield. So as you look at this budget, I would only ask you to think of those things, because the Board of Selectmen did that in making their decision to make salary adjustments for me, for the chief of police, and for Kevin Duvall. So
What
Yes.
was Kevin making before he left when he was doing mechanic work?
Right around 100.
yeah, close to 100.
105, I think, when you counted in the
That's what he's making
Technician.
now, I think.
Hmm?
That's what he's making now, or
Yeah,
the
he's
new,
making-
yeah.
yeah.
So he's coming back to what he was originally.
99.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
yeah.
So you left the small
was it.
town because they couldn't afford you?
No, I left the small town because I live next door. And the guy behind me,
And that's
Yeah.
our point, is it's not the individuals, it's
I-
not
I
the work
understand
you
that.
do. You do a great job, you
I-
do a great job. The police department does a great job.
Yeah.
The highway department does a great job, but that's our purview, is to say that, and
I understand.
It's a lot of money.
Yep.
And it also seems like, and from my perspective as a citizen who looks at these numbers at this point, is the town hall is being used as personal paychecks. It's the town people's money. You have to justify these things. And well, I get a lot of support if I can get another $10,000-$15,000 to this person, and you love Tim behind you, or Tim loves you, and this person loves, and this, yeah, you give 10-15% raise. You guys are going to support each other right to the end. But you get what my point is.
I do understand your point,
You know,
because I've
and
sat on a
you were
budget
hired,
committee too.
and you say you do extra work. What Deb was just talking about is at the state level or at a corporate level, if someone isn't there and they don't hire somebody, they don't have money for that person, or it's hard to find somebody. It takes 6 months, 8 months. Everybody else is doing that work.
Mhm.
Yes.
With no extra pay.
Yes.
No.
You do extra work. Yes, you fill in where needed. Yes,
Yeah.
so the person doing the mechanical work and also
Right. And Stan, at one time, just so you're aware, I was temporary DPW director for the town of Tilton, health officer, town administrator. I said to the Board of Selectmen, I don't have room for all these hats in my closet. So I can agree with that statement, and I've done it. And, I do, again, I respect your opinion and that stuff,
Yeah.
but I think as a hiring authority, as a manager in the past, I struggled with these too.
Mhm.
But I also struggled with what's in the best interest of the community. And I often am known to say, look at the revenue side of our budget as well.
Mhm.
Look at the growth that we're managing. When we talk about our land use office, it is extremely busy there. And we're not paying the market rate. And these are all things that I juggle with too as the town administrator. I mean, I've got to answer to the 5 people that sit behind that table, and
Mhm.
I surely like to be on the good side and not the
Four
bad side.
people.
4, sorry. So, sorry, Joe.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe. I keep thinking you're part of the mix. But anyway, I do understand, Stan, your position, and I respect
And,
your
and
opinion.
that's why if it was 3-5%, okay, doing a great job. All right, but 18%
Right.
is hard to swallow, and it's hard to justify. And honestly, there's nothing being told to me tonight that justifies it.
Right.
Because it's a position with numbers and duties and it needs. I hope we don't lose you. I hope living nearby doesn't make us lose you to Concord
No.
or to Manchester or someone like that. Police chief's doing a great job. I hope we don't lose him to, or the highway department. It seems like we did lose him to somewhere else and he came back. I hope you guys stay, but it would be understandable if for my family, I'm an ex, this is my life. I need to, and there's an opportunity in X city.
Sure.
That's what you get.
Yep.
That's.
I know for me, and most of us aren't accountants or anything.
Right.
So when you say market rate, we don't understand that.
Right.
I mean, because I can, town clerks on average get 47,000 a year when I Google it.
Right.
We're paying them 70,000.
Right.
So I don't know what a lot makes that a difference.
Right.
And the same thing for the planning. I mean, they're like 50,000. We've got $100,000 in planning people.
Right.
So I just, it's hard to understand that.
Yep.
Unless I do a lot more research and check all the other towns around, which is
Similar towns,
going to take me a while.
Similar towns.
similar
right.
sized towns.
Yeah, similar sized towns. Yeah.
Thank you.
That are
It's
willing
not
to
just the
report.
size. Tilton is unique in its location. It's unique in its malls and its huge shopping stuff. We got 3,600 people. Maybe we're up to 37. I don't
I'm
know.
not talking just number of residents. I'm talking like the environment too,
Yeah.
the business, all of that.
Okay.
I mean, you can't compare us to Concord. You can't compare us to Manchester.
Or Laconia and Franklin
Right.
even. You really
Right.
can't.
That's all I'm just saying. There's a,
So I'm glad Scott was able to explain some about his own situation
Mhm.
because I wouldn't reveal, those types of things, but I can attest to the fact that the savings in New Hampshire retirement did have a compelling portion.
That's a good
of,
thing to know.
you know,
Yeah.
is hiring. And there are things like that when they come along. I can tell you in terms of the land use coordinator, right now we have 2 part-time people and 1 full-time person in the land use department. And the coordinator is a 34-hour per week position, and the per hour rate is $26.75. The average across a whole series of towns that I surveyed was $40.30 was the minimum average. The minimum
Full-time or
average
part-time?
that's for full-time.
Oh, 34.
Full-time.
Oh,
So
34
the-
hours is part-time.
Well, so
Oh.
that's the average wage of the minimum. There's a maximum size too, but you don't want to hear that. But the $13,000 equates to that added to the 47,000 equates to a wage of $34.10.
What
And-
kind of expertise do these people have in our department?
what kind of education, what kind of skills?
Do they
what kind
have
of-
a master's? That's typically what they would get
No,
for
no,
50,000.
not-
That's included in
That-
market rate.
Not so. If you look around at who's been hired, it's really all over the map. There just recently, I think it was it Epping or Enfield hired in it with 3 years experience at 77.4.
For a land use coordinator or for a
Mm-hmm.
planner?
No, land use.
Do they have a degree
That I
in
don't know.
in
I don't-
building
I don't
or
know
need-
all
planning?
We
I
need
don't-
I mean,
that
that's a
information.
huge difference. If you
Yep.
don't have a degree in the planning, then you're not
right
as
but-
valuable.
But if you consider for a moment that in these positions, so let's say we go into 26 and all of a sudden we need to fill that position. So what would the budget committee suggest we cut to, pay a wage for somebody that would come in with experience? Because I can tell you, and just so you know, for those of you that, are talking about the many people have to chip in and do the work. I was your interim town administrator for 5 months, what, a year and a half ago. In land use, we all had to pitch in land use when basically practically the entire department was decimated, and we had nobody.
And we
essentially
couldn't
for a
find
while.
anybody to work there.
What-
We
what-
couldn't find anybody.
What
It
was the previous setup? What was the previous? You had a person here. Was that person full-time?
Yes,
And then what did they have for support?
they had a part-time person.
Okay, so now we have,
Full-time.
now we have how many people in the land use
So we have 2 part-time people.
that work how many hours?
The building inspector works 12 hours. The land use coordinator works 34 hours.
Okay,
And then we have a full-time land use technician.
okay. So we
What's the
have,
difference?
we have more
If you
people.
could just,
Sure.
what's the land use coordinator do?
So the coordinator job is really encompassing. It's the manager of the department head position. They manage the other 2 people. They coordinate all the activity, all the things for the planning board, zoning board, any land use issues that come in from the state or anything that comes into this building that has to do with land use goes through their desk first.
And then it goes to the planning board, right?
Planning board, zoning board.
But the
what have
planning and
you.
zoning are the ones that make the decisions.
Yeah,
This position is a support to them.
part of that position is a support to them, but they do that. And Pat, if you'd like to chime in, please feel free. But
There's quite a lot more than just going to planning and zoning. You work very, very closely with the developers, particularly if you notice Route 3 and all the development that's gone along there. You spend probably a good 80% of your time working with the developers long before it gets to planning and zoning. And then you work with the mappers, you work with land use, your current use, your land use, you work with the residents, and now with all of, you have engineers, your reviewers, your third-party reviewers, you go out and inspect the properties and so on and so forth. There's a lot more involved than just sitting behind a desk and working with planning and zoning, a lot more. You work with DES, you work with the environmental department, you work with DMV on all of the changes in with their licensing, all of the dealerships that we have in town, so on, the junkyards, so on, fireworks, all of their licensing goes through land use, and so it comes inspections and so on and so forth.
Just,
and I can tell you with our new fee schedule this year, the cost of the department for 25 was about $160,000. And we brought in, as of, I think, the end of October, it was $206,000 in fees and permits.
So it pays
And-
for itself, kind of.
And
I
but
know,
isn't
but
that
just-
mostly
Self-sustaining.
the big
We just
unit
did
over
that,
there?
though.
it had
But-
nothing, actually, you would be shocked at how little was attributed to that because that was prior to the new fee schedule.
Right.
I mean, shockingly low amount because we didn't have people in place at the time that we had a constant revolving door in and didn't have the full-time people.
But just because you're collecting more fees, revenues, doesn't mean you give a 20% pay raise. I mean,
Well, I think it's important if that person, I don't know who's doing it, but they should have some kind of background in the planning process because otherwise they might make a mistake that would cost the town money. So they need to know the laws around the planning.
Oh, absolutely. In
Yeah.
any of the
So,
positions that.
I just want to make sure that that person has that.
Well, in any of the positions that the board hires into, they always look at experience and education.
Certification, yeah. You
For
got
any
it, yeah, yeah,
certifications, professional,
yeah. Okay.
Of course, they need to be qualified for the job,
Right.
and the job should be by the duties of that job.
That's right. And we have job descriptions for all the jobs and they're on the website. So they're all listed there. But in any case, that gives you an example. In fact, the $26.75 is below the minimum of these towns for land use technician. So the minimum.
And what
land
does the
use
technician do? I'm
wage-
sorry, we didn't get to that point
The
yet.
technician works on all the permits, scheduling, the collection of money for permits,
Does
insurance.
the building,
Secretarial,
Yeah, all the abutters notices, putting together packets for the boards and commissions, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
does
it's
the building inspector's scheduling?
right, and scheduling the building inspector.
sounds kind of secretarial to me, but I mean, sort of what,
Well, it is in some respects.
I mean, I've been on the budget, the planning board for 10 years, so I've seen how that works, but
$40 an hour.
There's
That's a lot for $40 an hour.
yeah, it is, yeah.
So in any case,
Be a job description.
so
Okay.
would you all like to
let's
continue on or?
Please.
Okay. And one thing that Scott sort of touched on briefly, and I'll just final point on this, when he talked about revenues, not only, have we looked at, making sure that we're charging for the services that we provide where we can, but also in grants. And Scott personally was very influential in helping us get the award of the diesel grant, along with Kevin's help and my help. But he did the yeoman's share of the grant writing, which is going to give us $229,000 towards a brand new truck. And we only have to put up 20% of it. So, highway truck. And he's already working on a second one when that round opens up. In addition, he was very instrumental in the $500,000 grant
The bridge.
that Jeannie started and got approved, but then there was a ton of work. I put in an enormous amount of work on that. Scott did as well, and he also was the one that pulled in the bridge company that was able to quote this for basically $1.1 million less than what we had been quoted before. So, sometimes when you have the right people, sometimes things fall into place. If it was all rote every day, the same old thing every day, maybe I'd agree with you. And then also, lastly, on town clerk wages, you have to look at town clerk tax collectors. So there's a difference, and in some cases, it depends on the size, but it also depends on the activities that they're involved in. So, in any case,
Well, isn't the town clerk tax collector's salary is voted on by the townspeople?
That's
not
correct.
something that we
Right.
can.
But we usually
Yeah,
talk
right in
about a
this budget.
percentage.
Yeah.
We make
That's
a
correct.
recommendation.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We usually keep them near wherever the normal percentage is for
Yeah,
all the town
yeah.
employees. But this year, there's nothing normal.
Well, so the merits this year, as they were last year, were mirrored to what the collective bargaining unit was receiving. And so last year they were at a 4%. This year they're at a 3.5%, which is what was budgeted into the budget for the non-collective unit people. With the one exception, although the town clerk tax collector isn't eligible for a merit, she puts her request into her line, and you'll see it in the narrative there. It explains what the percent request was, and then it also includes all the taxes and benefits that go along with that. And then that gets apportioned if approved at town meeting. So she had requested a 4% increase this year, which is a little different from the 3.5%, which is completely separate and is merits.
So why does it say 4.9?
Because that incorporates the rest of the benefits.
The cost of the benefits?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So in any event, as you probably saw, we have the elections, 3 elections in place of 1, and the costs of those. We are trying to push into this year any of the encumbrances. If we have any money left over, there's a unit that we have to purchase for the new scanning unit for voting. And
Didn't we just get one of those?
we haven't actually received it yet.
Really?
We're they keep promising and we keep waiting. So we
Jeez.
can't pay for it until we get it. I'm hoping
They
it comes.
required us to have it and then won't give
So-
us access to it.
So
Yep.
didn't you just encumber the money from last year? Because we
Well-
had it in the budget last year.
We did have it in the budget last year, which is why I want to make sure we
But you
pay for
encumbered
it
it.
this year. Right. However, if it slips into next year, we're going to have to encumber that. So,
But are you asking us to raise it again?
no, not at all.
Where's the line? I'm sorry. It's
Encumbering is just holding it on the side.
already in the budget.
Yeah.
It's retaining money from the prior year budget.
Right.
It's already been raised and
If it's
appropriated.
It won't be added. to
No,
next
no,
year.
no, no.
Yeah.
Where does it show up in here?
And actually, all of this.
Let's see.
And wouldn't it show on the income
I
line
did want to
that we
just
already-
backtrack. What's the difference between the building inspector and the code enforcement officer?
So the building inspector is what you would expect, someone that goes out and inspects the electrical, the drywall, the
Occupancy permits.
plumbing, all the different components of a construction or renovation. The code enforcement officer is responsible for ensuring that the zoning codes were met within a given area, so that if there are violations of the too many unregistered cars, or there's some other use that someone's using the property for, a commercial property, and they decide to, put 4 other businesses in there. They're the ones that are responsible for going out and the enforcement arm saying that, no, our zoning only allows this and you're only permitted to do that. And then they get into the enforcement.
I would think that would be a building inspector role, but that's not,
It really isn't.
because
it's-
that's what he's looking for.
Not unless you want to pay the exorbitant amount per hour.
Okay, no, I just thought it would be inclusive, but
It's two different types of enforcement. The building inspector
Yeah.
is making sure that you've got your plumbing done to code, your electrical's done to
Yep.
code. They give
Right.
I think they do the occupancy permits, things like that. And the zoning
and so
compliance
if
is to
they
make
find
sure they're,
something wrong, they go and tell the code enforcement officer?
I don't know. Is that how it works?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Also-
Yeah.
Also,
Okay.
Oh,
we-
absolutely. Yeah,
also
there's-
we get complaints online as well.
Okay.
We get residents that call in or get complaints online that we have to go out, that I have to go out and check.
Fence is too close, sign is too big. I mean, it's too close to the road.
Right, so
You
they're,
have codes.
so that person is basically
Yeah, I know,
enforcing our zoning and
but-
planning laws
Somebody has to be in charge
Right.
of it.
and bringing it to the appropriate
Unfortunately.
board for action.
And I can tell you that, that the board would prefer to have someone in that position with more hours. It has been for years, they felt like we're not addressing enough of these issues. Of course, boards change, the personalities on the board change, but there was a push at one point. They wanted somebody to actively go out and drive up and down and look for violations and write them up and that sort of thing, as opposed to what most towns do is reactive. They're waiting for someone to say, hey, my neighbor's doing this or that. Why does that company get to do that? And, or the building inspector notices something, or a town administrator or some other employee that has knowledge of the zoning laws. So it really depends on whether the board wants a reactive or an active code enforcement. But up until recently, that was a real big push to have someone, like a half-time position dedicated to that.
Well, as we
So-
get bigger, you're going to need that because it's just going to be out of control.
Well,
We tried to get that several years ago. And not just recently, it was
Right.
several years ago. It's like when Al LaPlante left.
Mhm.
He was kind of both.
Right.
We couldn't entice him. He's the hardest working man in New Hampshire, or central New Hampshire. And we couldn't get it. So we went out and hired a building inspector, because really need building inspectors, because there's paperwork that has to be signed off by the town
Oh,
and
yeah.
whatever.
yeah,
Sure.
occupancy
And then
permits, mortgages, yeah.
Land use coordinator became the code enforcement officer, because there was nobody else to do it. And it's very reactive. If they get a call in land use, the fence is too close to my garage or whatever.
Yeah, setbacks.
They're the
Yep.
ones that go out and respond to those kind of complaints.
Sure.
But I can tell you too that this is one of those where you want to have the right resources in land use so that when the planning is done and everything else, it's very everything's understood, everything's clear cut, everything's documented. Because otherwise, if you don't have the good front end down the road, if you can't find where this was approved or there was, the right distance or some sort of something documented at the time, and that unfortunately does happen in town. If you don't have that resource, then you really suffer on the code enforcement side, or you can. So it's really hand in hand. But in any case, to answer Deb's question on the machine, on page 4 under town clerk tax collector budget, about the 5th item up from the bottom is TCTC election preparation. And that's for voting machine maintenance and coding. And the comment there, the 2025 purchase of the machine, that's showing that we're purchasing it out of 2025 funds. Do you see that?
I don't,
Yeah.
So on page 4 of the budget,
Almost at the bottom, Bill. 414570.
yep. Election
So this
preparation.
money is still sitting there from the 2025 budget.
Right. In other words, what I'm saying is that we're doing maintenance on the machine. We have to pay for that. We don't have an option.
so you spent 700. Is that what I'm reading?
Yeah, we have not purchased the machine yet. It's
Okay.
not in our expenses.
Yeah.
We're hoping to have it
No,
this
they went
month.
down 700 on the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They-
it's
Yeah,
700
they had
less.
5,000.
And then
The
they're only
request is
requesting
700.
this.
So
Right.
you-
They spent this. This is unaudited.
Okay, I guess I'm confused.
Okay.
Do we know how much is
So
left
it
over
was-
on the budget in 25?
It's going to be very tight.
What was the cost of the
Um,
actual machine?
3,500. So it's $7,000. We're getting a $3,500 grant.
Okay. So if the machine is 3,500 and we already have
The
that money,
35, yeah,
right? Why do we need to raise 4,300?
more.
Because that's for the machine maintenance, the coding, and the ballot printing. The coding is required for three elections, and we have to use the same company to do that.
So how many elections did we have in 25? We only spent $1,900.
We had one election,
All right, so you're
But
expecting,
3,500 out of that 5,000.
but that's also for the old
No, no, I know.
machine. That's the
I
old machine in 25.
I think I can ask this in a different way that might clarify. What Deb, I think, is asking is, if we're not paying $3,500 for a new machine next year, why isn't the amount changed? Not -700, but -3,500?
Because the coding alone is about $800 per code.
we're doing 3?
Per election, and there are 3.
All right,
That
so
was
that's-
with the old machine, and we're told that it'll be that much or more for the new machine. And then there's the maintenance on the machine,
on the brand new machine.
the brand new machine.
They have to be
I don't make
right.
it up.
They have to be right.
Yeah.
Calibrate.
You have to rig it, rig them, right? No, just kidding.
Bill.
Sorry.
You're
Get that
locked
in there.
in. You don't have really any leeway. I mean, you should see that go down in the subsequent year because we'll be back down to, in 27, there should just be
Okay.
one
Yeah, we can.
One election.
election.
Okay.
So, so we talked about elections, merit increases, salary adjustments, utility rates. We did have a huge increase in that utility rate, as you can see, for electricity. And unfortunately, the PD is probably our largest user of electricity outside of the street lighting, because that the system that's installed there is primarily it's a sealed system, and it uses a lot of electricity. So we have not budgeted the full 32.6% when you look through the electric lines. We're hoping to make some improvements where we can make some adjustments and use some less electricity. But we'll just have to see how that goes.
And that's the same increase that all of our residents are facing too, right?
No,
I mean,
because
no, I mean, the cost of utilities is
Oh,
still
well, yes.
something that
yeah,
all of our residents are facing
Sure.
as well.
sure.
So,
But the increase percent is because we locked in 5 years ago at a low rate. And I recommended not going a long period of time because I think, if there is softness in the economy and we do see rates come down, then the board can lock in. They do from time to time.
These rates you're shopping for, is these the delivery rates
Yes, yeah,
that we all can shop for?
yeah,
Yeah.
right. The supply.
I
call
recommend
it the
doing it.
supply. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Did it.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
It helps.
Outside of that, I guess I would just ask, if there are any specific questions, since you all had a week with us.
So the health and welfare is another department
Oh.
that's growing.
So health and welfare, the welfare director, in the past years, there were a lot of federal programs available to welfare recipients that the town didn't have to pay for. So her projection for general assistance went up quite a bit. And then also the amount of time that she's spending now versus her historical 20 hours per week. She's now at 34 hours per week. And that's what accounts for the significant increase in that department. And we will overspend that this year. You'll see it's overspent now, 113% so far, and we're not even at the end of the year. That's primarily due to the timing of that change in her position. Yes.
Okay, I have a question about human services. The director of human services was working 20 hours a week for years and years and years, but submitted no time slips. Now, is all of a sudden we're up to 34 hours a week? Are we keeping track of the actual time slips, or are we paying a salary to that person?
Yeah, no, every employee provides a timesheet, including the human services director. I think what you're referring to is the board would receive periodic reports from department heads and directors. And I think that's maybe what you're referring to because
She was authorized 20 hours a week. Did she ever put in for less than 20? No.
No.
Did she provide
She used paid time off.
did she
but she wouldn't.
provide a list of what she does? I worked 4 hours on Tuesday because I had office hours, or is that on a time slip somewhere?
Yes, she does. She does report her time. She doesn't have.
It's always 20 hours a week though, without accounting.
It was 24 hours a week, but it's now 34 hours a week, and she does account for her time.
Okay.
She doesn't have set office hours, and she typically will meet.
I understand that
elsewhere.
role and what have you. I just want to
Okay.
make sure that, because I know that some weeks are 60 hours a week and some weeks are 15 hours a week. And you know what I'm saying?
I do. Yep.
And if you don't have an accounting of the hours, it's like, all right, this week I worked 14 hours.
So
But my minimum floor is 20 hours.
So the position is part-time salaried. So no matter how many hours she works, she gets paid whatever that amount is. The reason why the board had changed the position to increase the standard and the expectation of the amount of effort she was going to have to put in was because of the projected activity or the activity since the federal programs have gone by the wayside. So. But she does, all employees submit timesheets and they're checked every week.
Will she spend more time in town now that She's doing 34 hours?
I can't answer that. She does not have set office hours here.
And she meets clientele at various locations.
Yep. She
But
meets at the
I
PD.
just find it interesting that she had 6 hours worth of consultations, or she had, there was no specific breakdown. It's always been a mystery to me. But I know that our welfare budget comparatively
Below.
is very small.
Mhm.
It really is.
Yeah.
She
does a
doesn't,
good
she
job.
doesn't go and
Yeah.
spend money frivolously, and she knows everybody, and she knows the system, and she's not just, oh, you need $600 for rent? There you go. It doesn't work like that.
No, she's very, very experienced. Yeah,
Mhm.
very experienced.
So the health officer, what do they do? And they're doing a zoning code enforcement too?
So the health officer position was split between two individuals.
Mhm.
That money was taken, and some of the money was dedicated towards code enforcement, and some of the money was dedicated towards health officer when our health officer, prior health officer, had retired,
Right.
resigned.
So what does the health officer do?
Health officer responds to all sorts of things: health complaints, restaurants, people get sick, or mice running around in the restaurant. They could be called in by the state to do inspections in certain places. Also, failed septic systems, water, testing the schools for water temperature, heat, going on housing inspections where their complaints.
Yeah, we did
that
all the
landlord.
rental, a few years ago. They
Yeah.
did every rental,
Right, but
but
if
that's
there's
only every few years. Yeah.
But if there's a landlord that isn't supplying heat and someone's paying for it, and they call in with a complaint, the health officer is the one that responds. The board of health is the board of selectmen are the board of health, and they appoint the person to be their one to go out and inspect and do those sorts of things. And then in some cases, there are enforcement activities to it. It's pretty widespread. Foster homes, things of that sort that require state inspections, they'll rely on the local health inspectors to do that.
So can I ask a question? So you're saying that out of that 19,000, that 7,800 was paid to zoning compliance, zoning code enforcement?
That's the way it was split. That's correct.
So I
So
thought
that's
that,
the reactive zoning code enforcement.
so that was just while that position was empty?
No, I don't follow your question.
So it shows here that there was a salary for $19,781 for the health officer, right?
That is the health officer salary.
Right.
And 7,800 it says too. So you'd
So
think
that
would
person
be-
got
Hang on,
7,800 more.
Nope.
No, the
Let me,
zoning code enforcement did.
What? Let me find
Did
it.
say
here.
include 7,800 for zoning code enforcement?
Hang on. If you look at the last year, health officer, so in 25, if you were to look at the original split, it was at 26,000 and change. So during the year, the Board of Selectmen made a budget transfer to transfer $7,800 out to zoning code enforcement. That left the 19,781 for the health officer. So if you look over in the land use department, you'll see there's the $7,800 under 4240.130. It's about the fourth item up from the bottom on page 6. And then you can see of the 7,800 that was split out of that original budget, $5,581 have been spent as salary out of that. And for the health officer, you can see that $18,159 have been spent for salary out of that. Those are part-time salaried stipends, if you will.
25, and then that's all that's spent so far.
That makes sense?
So the code enforcement officer got paid that as well as their salary.
The 7,800,
Yeah.
well, the $5,500 out of the 7,800 so far.
That's what I was asking, yeah.
Yeah, it's a weekly.
You got both.
It's weekly. Yeah.
So is that the same under the health and welfare? The zoning code enforcement is the same as the other one? On the plan, on the land use?
So what that note is showing you is that in 2025, the original budget that was 19,781 plus the 7,800, whatever that amount of money is. If you were to look back in your town report, you'd see 26,000 and change for that line.
Okay,
So 7,800.
7,581.
I'm sorry?
27,581.
Thank you. So 7,800 of that was moved out into the
Okay.
land use department
okay,
for zoning code enforcement, because it's zoning code enforcement is a land use type activity. And the remainder was left in here for the health officer.
because I did
Because-
notice that in some of these earlier, there was,
So is
it
she
kept
getting
changing.
this and that?
So I was going to ask you about that. And
We'll
Okay,
have to ask.
well, so
there's some of these original budgets as we went from the third month to the fifth month to the eighth month, they were changing
so
original budgets.
so some of that was I needed to go back and reflect the change within the budget and, take care of the budget transfer that the board had done. So that could have been the timing by which, I went through and made sure that was done correctly. So it's reflected correctly, and it reflects the 7,800, reflects that it's a reactive enforcement.
So the land use coordinator is the same person as the code enforcement officer.
Currently, that person provides both services. That's right.
So she works 34 hours land use and then the rest for code enforcement?
That's well.
Above 34 hours.
So
Or is
any
it at the
any
same
code enforcement hours are considered to be comp time.
Okay.
So
So that they're looking for a 7% increase on that line too.
no, that was a 7% increase that the board had put in for, I guess, for the zoning code enforcement. I think so. Yes.
Wow.
Does the health officer position have 20 hours or 34 hours per week?
So the health officer position is round the clock. So there are no set hours for it. It never had any set hours in its entirety. So the health officer could be called out on the weekend, at night, on a holiday, and they have in the past. It just depends. It could be during during the week.
I'm confused why two people are being paid to be health officer.
They're not.
Okay.
They're not. There's only one health officer. So what that note is reflective of, and this is instructive for me because it seemed to make perfect sense to me, but if it's confusing, I'll make sure that it's worded differently in the annual report. But the original budget that was there was split
For
at one
25.
point because they wanted to have zoning code enforcement activity, but had no money associated with the activity. So, so they split off $7,500 for that, and the remainder stayed in the health officer line. So health officer line, that is the budget that you see there for that health officer. The zoning code enforcement officer, that portion of it, the $7,800, was moved out of the health and welfare budget into the land use budget because the zoning enforcement it's more an appropriate place to have that budgeted.
Is it common for the land use coordinator to also be the code enforcement officer?
Well, there was no one else. And I think
You need a job?
Oh, did it get posted? Did
Oh,
the job get
it-
posted?
Oh, yeah.
we couldn't find anybody.
Nobody wants it, Deb. You're welcome to it.
Still can't find people as far as I know.
So does the health officer also give a timesheet? Or,
Yes. Yeah.
whenever they do go
Yeah,
out.
there's a report that the health officer gives to the Board of Selectmen, because as I mentioned before, the Board of Selectmen are the Board of Health,
Mhm.
and it's their appointee that does the legwork.
So when I asked about the health officer retiring, I was told that the town administrator was acting health officer. Is that not the case right now? Okay. Are you posting for the health officer?
The board has not decided to post for.
You're just going to keep doing it because you enjoy it?
I'd love to give it away, man.
Mhm.
If anybody's interested, step up.
Deb, we posted for the health officer,
Yeah.
health/code for over a year and nobody put in for it.
We did.
Okay.
Yep. And yet the complaints come in.
Well, I'm sure they do. The increases are really bothering me, but
We have
can move on.
we have some problem landlords in some places that, kind of repeat offenders.
Mhm.
Right? Yeah. So
Okay.
in any case,
Frequent flyer.
I'd like to point out one other, so while we're kind of talking about things that have moved, within the administrative budget under the dues, you'll see that Lakes Region Planning is now included there, and it was increased.
What line is that?
It's on page 2, it's line 4130, 320, which is administrative dues.
Okay.
So Lakes Region Planning, we rely on heavily every year. It is a dues that we pay for it. It's listed as dues. We're invoiced as dues. We're members. And so therefore it was moved out of, I think originally it was, and everybody realized, why is this in outside agencies? We need to move this. And it was moved to administrative dues. And that's what accounts for the increase there. A couple other that I think that along with there are a couple lines that are slated to be eliminated, small lines that are more reflective of where we're kind of the activity. So the finance postage line was eliminated, and it's now under administrative postage, with less money put into it for that. The where's the other one? In janitorial, so the town is having to go with a different vendor for 26. We received about a 30% increase in our current vendor, and which was untenable. So we did find a vendor that we felt was suitable for the police department and town hall and senior center. And in the past, the prior vendor always did the senior center for free, quote unquote, but we were paying X amount of money for all the services. And so this new vendor, they have an amount, I think it was 2,000.
546.
It's actually less than that. So town hall is going down by $2,546, but at the very bottom of page 3, senior center maintenance is going up by $2,080. So that's the difference of having to pay for the senior center cleaning. So in other words, we're netting less money overall between the two, but it's just a shift. Whereas before it was, and there really, obviously, there was no free amount for the senior center. They had worked in their costs into other departments, but that's what accounts for that. Other than that, pretty much everything you're going to find is intact in terms of where things are. One other thing that we're hoping to encumber, and it's listed on page 6 under land use department, which is the master plan update. In order to get grants and take advantage of state programs, you have to have updated master plans. You've got to have updated zoning. You have to be kind of current with a lot of these things, or else you're sent back and told that, well, that'd be great, but this is what you need to do to, to take advantage of this program. And there's money on the table that we're not able to access because our master plan was last updated in 2013. And yes.
Encumber 18,000, but you got $1 on the line.
Right. So, so we won't know if we can encumber that until later on, and that's just a pure
Guessing.
swag right now. That's a scientific wild ass guess. Pardon my French.
I've been
and,
on the master plan committee a few times, and it just never gets done.
Well, and that's
No,
why
I mean,
the need for
It's so many arguments. They want to do the whole thing, or they do want to do amendments, and it's just turns out to be a nightmare.
well, the hope is that by utilizing a consultant or services from a consultant, that they can successfully lead the groups that are involved in it to fruition. Where we've got an updated master plan. I don't know that $18,000 is going to cut it. I think Samerton spent $130,000 through Lakes Region Planning.
Well, the
but-
consultant would probably work with a board, which is the board is all volunteers.
Right, and we do
I've
have.
never had a consultant before.
Well, we do. We have found a very good one. They've worked on many different master plans throughout the Lakes region and in Maine, and we just don't have any pricing from them as yet. And that's one of the tasks that the land use coordinator is tasked with, to assess, whether who we might use and get some pricing from the different groups. And looking at creative ways, is there some other way we can get this done without spending a lot of money? But it's a big task.
And when you say encumber, and we can't decide now, but is this going to be added to the budget
So
before we go to town meeting or after? Or
we'll know by the end of the
so we
year.
have to re-vote on that.
No. So the Board of Selectmen vote on the encumbrances. So essentially, you have to have a legal obligation to encumber money. So essentially, the money that we've raised and appropriated for 2025, if there's money left over, we can say, hey, we're going to buy this this police car next year, and we're going to take $50,000 of the money we had left over, and we're going to sign a contract to buy this car in the spring of 26. So when you have the legal authority to do that, you can then, encumber that money. So what happens in the budget?
That's why there's a dollar line.
So, right. So that becomes a legal budget. So when you look at the last page of the other report that I send out, you'll see that I take the budget that was presented at town meeting and show the encumbrances and the budget changes that were made at town meeting. So somebody can always take their annual report that had the budget listed in it and take one of these reports and follow the map of how we got to this number. How'd you get to that number? Well, there was encumbrances, there were changes made at town meeting, there were, that sort of thing. So it's that way everybody knows where we are, and it's so those encumbrances do get added to the budget. They are considered legal budget, because otherwise, the board is the governing authority to make sure that they're expending the budget in the right way, and those things that we're expecting to expend, it's just that we're not going to raise and appropriate that money because it's already left over from 25.
Scott, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to add to Tim's comments and Christine's question that one of the other things that a consultant will allow us to do in a master plan is the board has charged me with researching impact fees. In 2009, and you might have been on then, Bill, the planning board did in fact adopt impact fees, but the problem is that the master plan has to be updated. So these big companies that are coming in here and creating a workload for all of us will pay their fair share. When the police chief and his staff are in the need of increasing staff because of the imposition of these commercial businesses, most communities charge an impact fee. And I have been asking the question since I came here a year and a half ago about why are we not charging impact fees?
Well, I left the board in 1995 and we were saying, where are the impact fees?
Well,
I mean, back then. I
that
mean, you know,
explains it.
Yeah.
I'm on the planning board now and we are talking, you can confirm with Pat, but we are heavily looking at the impact fees now. So,
But if you
Good.
look at the master plan, it's connected to they're supposed to be connected to the master plan. And if you look at the inventory on the master plan, half of the fire trucks don't exist anymore. The police station doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
The cruisers don't exist anymore. I mean, it's totally outdated. So you have to be able to connect when you're doing impact fees. You have to connect a need with the growth, and the need is
That's pretty easy.
outlined
Just
in the master
talk
plan.
to Chief Gilman. I
Well-
mean, the reason we have the highest per capita police
that's-
force is because of extra 20.
So
And they said that when they came in, the planners we talked to said, yeah, it's great now, but in, 10 years, you're going to be paying a lot more money for everything.
So
And that's exactly what happened.
yeah. So the other challenge with that is, it's not the inventory that's hard to update. It's not the fire trucks. It's not things like that. It's when you get into the philosophies of what do we want our community to be? How do we want it to look?
Mhm.
That's where you get you got this group here, you got that group there, and that's what just kills the progress. So
I have two things. Off the master, not on the master plan. On revenues, you have, that's going to be some closing expected in 26. When about is that? For
let's see.
property that's being sold?
Let's hope. So the
Number?
It's just on his narrative. At the bottom, it says revenues, and they're supposed to be selling some properties
Oh,
that are expected
Page
to close
13.
in
Yeah, so
26.
if you go to page 13, also is the 26 budgeted revenues.
Yep.
And these are estimated revenues.
Mhm.
The sale of town property includes
Oh, there it is. Okay.
some sale. I don't know what sale is going to occur. The board is making decisions tomorrow on two of the properties that I know of. So whether or not, I think it's unlikely we're going to see any revenue in 25 from those, but they should definitely be in 26.
Second, we asked a lot of the outside agencies and we require them to bring us data. But I don't see that we have the balance sheet for the town.
Well, you're welcome to the audit anytime you like. It's on the website.
Okay. It's on the
Have at it.
website? Okay, I can definitely
Yep.
do that.
It's, you'll see it.
Is it under finance or?
It is, yes.
Okay.
I can, if you like, I can send the 24 audit to the budget committee. I'll
I
do
think
that
that would be helpful.
in the morning.
There's
It,
always question about, in the assets, how much money we're holding and what we can use. Remember that a couple years ago, people were like,
Fund
take it out of
balance.
this, take it out of
So-
that.
so one of the, so you do see at the end here, I think after the revenues, you'll see all the balances of the capital reserve funds. And,
You do?
and, yep. And
Fund balance.
if you recall,
They're in-
we're diverting money from any of the revenues for transfer station revenues are going into a revolving fund to help offset highway equipment costs. That's been doing well.
I don't see the capital reserve balances. I
It's
see
right, John.
warrant
The
articles.
The
next-
very last
Well,
page.
That's
there-
warrant articles.
CF,
To the right,
CR.
if you look to the right, you'll see the balances for each.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So those are the current balances as of the end of November. And so therefore, as you're looking through that, you can see roads, bridges, sidewalks, capital reserve fund, that the recommendation is to add 120,000 in 26, which would bring it up to 259,000 plus whatever interest is accrued, to that point.
And why are we increasing that?
Because if we plan to do any roads paving any roads, we have to raise money each year for that.
Okay.
We don't have a big capital reserve fund
And
set
it seems
aside
to me
for it.
that the sidewalks in some of the areas of this town are just dangerous. I'm cruising up to the high school today, last few days, and that sidewalk, we have young people walking on that sidewalk twice a day, and there's big holes in it and big chunks of tar and asphalt. And I'm not, well, it looks like it's severely decayed. And I don't know if that's on the list or I don't know.
Well, if you look at the public works section, page 8, the top of it, equipment, maintenance and repair, minus 29% for next year. Equipment and supplies, minus 25%. Miscellaneous expenses, minus 20%, minus 33%, minus 40%, minus 50%. I don't think your sidewalks are getting better.
Well, I can tell you that our public works director is very frugal, and
He always
And
has been, yeah.
he, he goes.
And the repairs, that's why we're not going to be paying
Okay.
for the.
I mean, he's
cost.
going to be doing the repairs himself. Some of these things that we had available budget for this year, we have purchased. The board agreed to purchase some items that were required in his shop. But in general, yeah, he's very frugal. There is $1 in the line for sidewalk construction. Again, that's so that if there isn't money or the board doesn't want to take money out of the capital reserve fund and there's money available within the budget to do a budget transfer, they could transfer money into that line or overspend that line for sidewalk construction.
Isn't sidewalk construction different than sidewalk maintenance? Because construction implies that that's
Yeah.
to create new sidewalks.
Probably
Well,
not.
Repair.
it's meant to be the same.
Okay.
The repair, care
Yeah.
of, what have you.
Okay.
Yep. In some
This
cases, I'm
would
sure
make
they've got to
sense.
rip out what's there and, reconstruct some. I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, just to let the committee know, one of our other issues that we're working on for 26 is the repairs on Academy Street, which we're going out to bid.
Thank you.
And that was going to run us a total, our engineer has told us, about $455,000. Using DPW staff and their abilities, because of our DPW director, we intend to save $350,000 on that project next year. So there's that number that Tim talked about between grants and saving money is creeping upwards of $2 million that we will be saving the taxpayers of the town of Tilton from 2024 to 2026.
So I'd be a little more conservative on
What
the
street,
Academy
what
savings.
street was that?
Academy
Street,
Academy,
but
okay, yeah,
I'd be a
okay,
little
right.
more conservative in the number on Academy, but it's going to be substantial savings.
But that's what we do. That's what we're supposed to do. We're
Right.
supposed to get grants. We're
Correct.
supposed to use
Oh.
our staff. I mean, it's awesome that you
But
guys are doing this.
You have to have the right staff in
Staff to
place
do it.
Get that.
has
That's the problem.
I
has
get
the
that.
willingness
But that's what we're supposed to do.
Right. Right.
and the skills to be able to do it.
And we're doing it.
I
we're
know,
doing
that's awesome.
And we're
Yep.
gonna be
But
paid for
but
it.
I still have a problem with a 20% increase in salaries.
I don't think
anyway.
anything went up 20%.
I could beat that to
Right.
death.
I just wanted, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to point that out because I think, and Tim and I and the Board of Selectmen have had this discussion at town meeting. I think you're going to hear me say it again because I think when I run into the average taxpayer who comes in my office regularly and asks questions about expenses, all legitimate, absolutely have a right to,
Mhm.
and I'm glad to entertain them.
Maintenance.
But these are things that we would be, and many other communities are bonding in that stuff that we've been able to save.
Mhm.
And it's good stewardship. And I am personally not looking for a pat on the back. It's a team effort and we're
Really is.
all working as a team. And that the Board of Selectmen will report regularly to that, listen, our police chief has saved money in grants, public works. We are working at it as diligently as we can so that when the taxpayers ask you, this budget committee, who is in charge of the budget, this question, you'll be able to answer those as well.
And it was this budget committee that asked, what can we do on fees and revenues,
Mhm.
right? So
Right.
so the response was, looking at those permit fees, taking a look at how we're charging some of these big projects versus, what people are paying in town. And we revamped quite a lot
That's great.
in how
Yeah.
it's done. So it's not
Mhm.
just square footage, it's percent of the cost of certain things
And
for
it's the,
plumbing and electrical.
it's the idea of the master plan. You just have to get and do that stuff, and you have to be aware of what other towns are doing. That helps us
Mhm.
understand where we can improve our revenue situation, or not revenues, but
Well, and being mindful of the fact that you don't want to burden the people that are struggling too. So, but
that's-
we
yeah.
were
That's my concern.
not charging some of these really
Hmm.
big wealthy projects coming in, and they couldn't believe that's all we have to pay.
Yeah,
That
right.
can't be.
Yeah.
Is this right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
let's fix that.
we did. Yeah, and we did. Wasn't without a few bumps in the road, but it's worked out well. So in any case, I'm going to be coming to your subsequent meetings if you have any questions, and as we go along, and any data that you'd like to see. As I said, I'll send out the audit, and I can send out a listing of the land use towns that we looked at. So
Can you share with us any of the salary comparisons for any of the positions? Do you have like a wage study?
not a formal wage study, but I can go back and see what we
Okay.
have from those meetings. Yeah, we have one for the PD.
And NHMA
Of course he
does have a salary study like on town administrative salaries
Mhm.
and that stuff. So we can find that information for you.
Yeah, there's and the
There's
land
also
use.
the state, Belknap County by county, they go over all the different wage general, average wages
Mhm.
for all those positions. But
Did you
The,
share that,
um,
Bill?
The land use was
That's
done in
online.
September of 25.
What's the website?
Office of State Planning.
Office of State
think.
Planning?
I got one more question on the IT, Information Technology Department.
Yep.
Is the salary of the IT director, is that a full-time position?
No,
How
that's
many hours a week is that position?
It's not set as an hourly amount. It was combined with the finance department position. So
It's Tim.
yeah. So
I know, I didn't want to
but it
say
was-
names, and I asked
No, that's
that
okay.
because the first time I was on the budget
Yeah, I
committee is
know.
when that position
Right.
came, and it was a temporary to get away from having our consultants that we were paying.
Right.
And it started doing it,
That's
and it's been
30,000.
10 years now. How many years has it been?
12, I think.
And at what point does that become a full-time position, or
So the position, so in 23, I was put on a contract, and the contract reorganized the two jobs so that my responsibilities for IT are for the management and coordination of the activity. And I still do the lion's share of the work here in Town Hall and for DPW, but as part of a succession transition down the road, I do rely more heavily on our consultant for the PD and also for our servers and firewalls. But my responsibility within my contract is for the management and coordination.
I think that's an important job, and I think you do a great job with that. Well, just because the way that you present this budget is very transparent, and I think we
Well,
appreciate
it's not
that.
without sleepless nights with the IT stuff. I can tell you,
Yeah.
there are times. But
Well, instead of leaving at 8 o'clock at night here, you gotta leave at 12,
right.
midnight.
and when that position was first made, and no insult to the person who has the position, but if that person is the finance director and the IT director, all the servers and everything gets crashed and we have no backup, and our finance man is in Bermuda and nobody could find him, maybe there's a conflict of interest there. And no offense to anybody, We have no reason to think that might happen, but
He can't take
you never
vacations.
expect it to happen until it
Doesn't
happens.
take
I
vacation.
love that question because,
And I asked it 10 years ago, whatever the
You
number
did.
of years ago was.
do you
and
remember what I said?
No.
It can't happen because we have internal controls. So we have a very, very robust internal controls framework within the town. So in other words, to be able to transfer money out of the bank, it requires, signature from the treasurer. It requires authentication. The Board of Selectmen, first of all, has to sign off on it. There's all these steps that have to take place. So the Board of Selectmen authorize the expense. The treasurer is then responsible for the transfer or the check writing. And just to give you an example, that the receipt of money never touches my hands unless, the person is out, for that particular week on vacation. So the receipting and the invoicing, everything is separate, and that's the way it's supposed to work, with one exception, which is a separate department, which is onto their own with the commission. But they do everything, for themselves within that unit. But otherwise, we separate everything, and there's a reason for that. It's so that we can protect the town's money and report to the board that for their fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers.
But is there an IT backup besides you? Like if
Oh,
you're not
yes,
here?
yeah. So the most important parts are the servers and the firewalls. And that's what I rely on our consultants for very heavily. And then we have all kinds of backup systems in place that I manage, and we use dual redundant servers. I mean, we've got really, I think, a really good setup. It's not without its faults from time to time, and we have had issues.
So the
But,
consultant is on the line where it says firewalls and servers, 13,000.
Yes,
Okay.
and they just increased their rates from $110 an hour to $180 an hour. So it's going to be very challenging next year for me.
Do we use them very much, or?
Well, I mean, when you have an emergency, it just depends. For rote things, no. But there are times when they are really essential and really important, and they're really good. So
They went up $70 an hour on you?
well, they have offered that we can purchase through the end of the month, at the old rate. So I'm going to try to see if I can't scrape together something, if we can, encumber some of that and purchase it or sign a contract for it. But it won't be that significant, that amount. But anyway, but I love that question.
Yeah, no
because-
offense to
because-
anybody,
no,
or,
because
that's why you call it.
You ask anybody in town, and it's just, I mean, I'm sure that's how people would think, but we go through all kinds of training through the financials, looking at internal controls. I'm sure Deb is very familiar with them from having been a town administrator, and Joe and John being selectmen, that it's really incumbent to make sure you've got good controls in place, because if you get the wrong person in, or they've got financial
on the
pressures. What's that?
You'll be on the news.
You'll be on the news, right?
Yeah, I hate
Yeah.
it when that happens.
Yep.
And I also asked that because that line item, that department wasn't a department. I don't think it was a line item within administration, and now it's $117,000 department. Now, the technology from, 10 years ago to today, but that's why it strikes me when you come back to it and you're like, wow,
I can
that
tell you,
one, wow,
it's
look at
a
that
lot-
one,
it's
wow,
a
look
lot
at that
less
one.
than a lot of other towns are paying.
Oh, I know.
A lot less. I buy refurbished equipment when we have to replace equipment. I get all kinds of stuff from the federal courthouse when I can, and they don't do it as often as they used to, but sometimes it looks like Christmas around here. We've got all our copiers from there,
Yeah, no, I
except
know.
for one, so, I mean, I try to be frugal about it.
Okay, and I don't want to neglect Chief Gilman. He's here. He probably wants to say something. It looks like your increase is all wage related, and now that you have a full staff, but
That's correct. Yep. We're
Yeah.
finally up to full staff. So that's been what, 4 years, 5 years. So I should get a round of applause for that. It's a long road. Let's just say that. I think every year it was why are you not to full staff? I think last year it was Joe that had brought up that why do we keep
Raising money for
why do we keep-
officers that
yeah,
we don't hire.
exactly. And look at that. Now look at us. So in a year, I think this last year, geez, I want to say at least 2 or 3 hires. So we kind of slimmed that up, the last of them. So that's good. That's real good. But yeah, most of our increases are salary, including mine, as you can all see. And to just point on that too, I know that's a touchy subject right now. That was my contract. This is my contract year. So for 3 years, it was pretty much make it or break it, like show yourself. If nobody knows me here, I was born and raised. I went to Winnisquam. I started in Northfield Police Department. I've been a cop for 19 years. And it was a gift to become the chief of where I was born and raised. I lived on Daniel Drive, 6 Daniel Drive. So I'm happy to be the chief. I don't want to go anywhere else. I don't want to go to Concord. I don't want to go to Manchester.
I was just going to say
Does
that.
not no interest there. State, I have a lot of people that were in state police that said, hey, why don't you get on state? But I love the little towns, and I love this community. And if you see me at events and how many events we keep up and the things that we do as a town or as a police department, look at any other police department while we're trying to, I guess, control the traffic and all the other chaos that goes on with Tilton. I mean, 30 to 50,000 vehicles in that area of this Sanborn Road. That's a lot of traffic. That's a lot of wear and tear. It's a lot of just calls in general. So I just kind of wanted to put that on point. I was quiet sitting here and I kind of just take it all in. And I understand. I get it. It's a lot of money, and I do. But most of these increases or anything are with just salaries and things like that.
Well, and the fact that the building is now
5 years.
yeah, going on 5 years old in February. So we're seeing, maintenance costs and contracts for maintenance that we're needing that weren't needed within, say, the warranty periods, things like that. So
yeah, and I'm trying to do better with that. It's obviously, it was a new role for me, and it was right from a little 3,500 square foot house, I guess you could say. When we would arrest people, they would say, why are you taking me to your house? No, this isn't your house. This is a police department. To now where we're at almost 14,000 square feet. So there's the huge fire suppressant. We have the HVAC system, which is 2 different companies. It's all technology. It's integrated, and you have to pay for that separate. And even the generator's like, okay, get the maintenance on it. Well, this year they're like, well, we got to change the belts and the batteries. I said, the batteries are good. All these little things that I know. And if I can save money, that's where we try to save. And Tim knows, I'll pinch a penny as much as I can. So
we're all very frugal.
yeah,
We really try.
so the one thing you would see we did cut the Celebrate system this year. We cut, yes, I know, Joe. The increase every year was going up $2,000 to $3,000. I mean, I think they quoted us this year to $9,700. That's for a license for a year. We can go to another department, utilize their Celebrate system. We do have the computer itself. It'll stay there offline. And if any time we want to, something goes on, but it was just too much money for what we were using it.
This is the system that dumps phones.
It
data.
extracts the phones. Yep. And it's just too much money, and the technology these days to open these phones, it's so advanced that you would need a bigger system, I would say, or something that would cost a lot more than what we would want to pay. So, but that's it. Any questions?
Oh, thank you. Any questions, Jeff?
And that's why we have the questions about the position, not the person. Not, has nothing to do with whether or not I trust him or I don't. You have to ask those questions. Or is that still a temporary position, or has it become permanent? Your efforts and your quality of work is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about budget and why, and explanations as to why. Any of you?
Well, and I can tell you from personal experience in 23, before I had a contract, I was so burned out. I spent so much time at the PD every week. And I just couldn't do this anymore. I just couldn't do it. And something was going to have to break. And it was just way too much. So,
Mhm.
I mean, and going back to, when we pitch in, everybody's pitched in, but I got to really say that the team that we have in place, we all work well together. We communicate well together. We are all looking out for the future. And, that's why it's so important to all of us that the land use department is so critical to really accounting for the growth that we're going to have, looking at and analyzing what is this going to cost us down the road when this next project comes in. We need to know these things, and we've got to have the resource in that department. It's so important. We have the right people in the right places, and having the right team makes a big difference. Grants and everything else. Academy Street is a perfect example. We wouldn't have been able to do that without the person that we have or someone, very similar to him. So, I think the board has put together a good group. Yes, it's cost some money.
But if you guys could just get a toll booth on this,
Yeah.
we'd be all set. Anybody online have any comments or questions? Okay. Any other questions from the board? Feel good? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your presentations. And we will go to minutes approval for 11/19.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of November 19th as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I do have a comment. I just, I have some questions on the Hall Memorial Library. Did they send us, they're going to show us how much money they have saved.
I sent that out to you.
I couldn't open that.
So what it is the list of all of the books that people have borrowed this year and how many times that book has been borrowed and what the cost of that book is. So if those many people bought that book,
Oh, I see. That's
So
what that was?
That's
Okay.
not
Part
quite
of
what
it.
we,
It's not
so
really.
what they're saying is
That's
they've
what
lent
they
this
gave.
book out 10 times
I
and
mean,
they
that's
got
what
their
every
money
library
back.
But they
does.
saved
Yeah, so that's what we're paying for
It's-
anyways.
it doesn't
for them
show
to
what it
lend
was
the
saved.
books.
that's what the thing on their front page of their website is talking about.
Yeah,
That's
Oh, yeah.
it's not
Okay.
legitimately, it's not like a real
that's what you asked for.
savings.
And the other question I had was that I didn't remember them saying that they were too old to be a nonprofit in the tax code.
Yes, they did say that.
And I don't understand that because I went online and there was nothing that
It's
said,
because of how old they are, plus they're between two towns.
well,
and
that's
all of
actually because
that
they're in
was
two
what's in
towns,
there.
they're not actually government. So they are much more likely to be able to get a 501c3.
All I know is that she's done all that research. and
Well,
that's what
it's
she said about
online
that
where,
on there, yeah.
because they're not an actual governmental agency.
Mhm.
If you're a governmental agency, you can't get a 501c3. But if you aren't.
Have they applied and been denied? Or she's just saying, yeah,
501c3?
have they
Well,
filled out the form and been denied?
All I know is that that's the research they came up with, and that was what they were able to do, was to do with Friends of the Library. I
Well,
don't understand it myself because I'm
If
not
they
a
could,
trustee.
we need some clarification on that. Could you,
Should we ask the person who was a part of the trustees to come back in and answer more questions?
I think I
well,
would like
let's check first with Brittany.
Okay.
And maybe they don't even know.
I would like an
you know.
official
I didn't see
opinion on
any
that.
ownership information either, because that was the question too, is who does own the building and who,
Well, it's like the town hall. Apparently, Charles Tilton donated the land, and then the woman paid for the building to be built, and then it was as long as it stays a library.
no, I know,
Yeah.
I understand that part of it.
The
But
ownership.
it
is-
reverts back to the family.
Uh,
And then they're like, well, we don't even know that the family even, who the
yeah.
heirs are, who that even
Right.
is.
Yeah.
And that became the question is,
That was
you're
the
the
big
trustees.
question about the island.
And it's also about
Hard to
the-
understand.
this,
You
Same
can't
thing.
figure it
this
out.
town of Tilton
I gotta watch that
building.
meeting.
It has to go back to an air.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if we ever built a new town hall, it would be the property of the Tilton Trust or whatever it is.
Whoever it is, yeah,
Yeah.
if they're still around. I did have another question for Tim, actually. The library has these huge expenses, and we're saying, and apparently, Northfield helped them finance, like the LED or something. So I was just wondering if both towns could actually help them finance like a mortgage so that they could spread those costs out over a longer period of time instead of hitting us all with, 100,000 a year.
Right. I'm sure they could probably apply for a note of some kind, but occasionally there are grants that come up that that the two towns can apply for say we did it for the fire district. We
Mhm.
both towns had a local equipment grant of $50,000, and each one dedicated 15,000 towards some special ultraviolet lighting in the ambulances that was needed and some other things. And so that can happen. But I don't know about a debt because, I don't know that Tilton taxpayers can be indebted by by a debt of the library. I guess we'd have to find out.
Because we wouldn't
That's
have
the
budgetary authority,
I mean, that's the question. I mean, we're giving them money
That's
anyway,
correct.
so,
like the Pines.
um,
We give them money, but we don't have
We-
any say in what actually happens at the Pines.
And we don't
The
know the
difference-
building.
the process of giving them a money in a mortgage is also a way of giving them money. So that's my concept.
And for me, the difference is the library is getting 97% of their budget from the two towns.
That's correct.
The Pines are raising revenues
They are.
that help offset.
They
So
are.
that's a huge
Library
difference.
doesn't, yeah.
Well, anybody loaning money to them would be looking for collateral, and they couldn't use the building as collateral.
They have
So
that.
I don't know how they would
And how would they pay it back?
borrow.
Income.
We don't know who they is.
We're so
The
confused.
library
That's my
trustees.
first question.
The
The
library.
library
I'm just
trustees.
saying that we're going to be giving them money anyways. I just don't want to give them all that much.
Every year,
For-
after
for-
year, after year, after
I mean,
year.
can't you spread it out?
Keeps going
I've,
up.
re- I've reached a limit for myself. I mean,
I don't wanna give
As
them-
As
we'll see
far as
how- now, I believe in libraries and I believe we need the library. I'm not sure we need $290,000 worth of library in the next year. So we'll see when it comes up how we vote.
So is there any other comments on the minutes?
well, I'm going to comment on your mortgage since I know mortgages. Even if it's owned by a trustee or a trust, or those trustees have authority in the trust agreement to get financing, to get, I work at a law firm too. So if they needed to get this mortgage and then the towns could contribute or whatever, and their mortgage, they get all the money, but their payments are only whatever their monthly payments are, which would be more affordable to both towns.
And I think what Tim was saying is that they don't have real collateral, but the towns would have to be the collateral. So,
Well, the building itself on a mortgage is always the collateral.
The trustees control.
Always.
okay.
But I'm thinking they can't use that building as collateral.
The towns would, right, they can use the building as collateral, but when
How?
the town's
They
getting
don't own the
involved,
building.
their income,
They don't own the building.
Yeah,
The
the
trustees
town,
do.
They're also a
the
two-town
town doesn't own
library.
town hall.
Just like
Uh,
the town of Tilton doesn't own this building.
I don't
right,
think
but whoever
anybody's,
owns it can get a
Mortgage it,
mortgage.
that's for sure.
I don't, I don't
Well,
think the
yes.
leadership at the
Yeah.
library has ever gotten a legal opinion on this. They're just saying, oh, we researched it. They need to get legal opinion. They need to go
No.
to a CPA or a lawyer and
I don't
figure it
know
out.
that They didn't.
Well,
Well,
it is,
They don't spend the money.
the town does put money aside. It's almost like a mortgage
What,
for
this building?
for all the buildings in town.
For maintenance
Yeah.
and repair.
Right.
Yeah.
The
Well, that's
back
what that's
wall
all
over
about,
here
too.
needs to be dealt with, and we've got drip edge issues.
Well, that's
and-
what the library is doing. They need repairs.
And the
yeah.
town of Tilton
of repairs.
raises the money to maintain the building. It's part of our agreement to, we paid $1. I think we paid I don't know if it was $1 a year or $1 period. and we get the building, but we have to keep it up and make sure it doesn't fall into the alley. And
Yeah.
Can I ask who seconded the motion? Thank you.
So all in
We're having
favor of
discussion.
accepting the minutes?
I
11:19? Aye. Any opposed?
Abstain.
All right.
Bears are different.
So we're meeting next week?
We have a meeting scheduled for next week, and I
have it.
wanted to know if you wanted
They
me to
didn't have
put
the one
the
before.
following week on the schedule as well, in case there's a snow event and
Yeah.
we're not able to come next week. It'll already be on the schedule, or if you
Wait.
need an extra night for voting,
We can always cancel if
you
we
can
don't
always
use it.
cancel it
Are
later.
we
so-
gonna vote on the budget next week?
Well, we should
I'm
consider. that.
Sorry?
Certain lines.
Okay,
Yeah.
Lines.
good.
start.
And I'm thinking that we
get that
need to
done.
kind of go, not necessarily line by line, but kind of, because there was,
Go department by department.
Yeah.
Or,
Yep.
or like, we're gonna approve this amount for
And we have the
All
outside
salaries,
agencies we have to
percentage.
discuss.
Tim, when do we need to have the, everything
we'll
done for
vote
the
when
public
time
meeting?
comes.
The
Maybe
public
we
meeting?
will do that. I don't know.
Let's schedule both of them and we can always cancel the second one if we need to.
He said that-
Agree.
So December 10th and next week, and then December 17th the following week.
Correct.
Okay.
And the one after that is
Would be,
Christmas, so we won't be meeting that week.
Yep.
No.
So the next 2 weeks after that, so might as well do the
Right.
next.
Yep.
and then we need to, public hearing. We
Yeah, we can do that in January. You know,
usually
see
at
how-
the
see
end
where
of,
you
end
are
of
at the end
January. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can set that up.
sure.
There's no point in setting that up until we have votes.
Yep.
so.
Sure. Okay.
And after next week, we'll have a good idea where we're at with that.
Exactly. Hopefully there's no snow event and we'll be able to get it all, get
Yeah,
it
snow's
done.
gonna hit us one of these
next
weeks.
time.
And Tim, you're sending us 2 things
Okay,
before next. meeting,
Motion
right?
to adjourn.
second,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Deb-
Opposed?
I'll put
Okay.
Debbie as the second.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Good
you. And I will
discussion.
bring by
That's all I can
the
do right now.
information.
learn
I
all this
forgot
stuff at
the
some point.
Water
It'll be fine.
Commission's
Well,
Yeah.
here's
information
what you,
on my
so
desk.
when I
Okay, we'll bring it in.
I'm gonna bring it to
When I
Suzanne
came here,
tomorrow. Who
now
says
nobody
she's gonna
knows
send it to everybody.
Okay, yeah.
So we'll have that information prior to voting next week.